I don't want to argue, although it may seem like I'm arguing, that science argues that people of faith are wrong. And I want to use the example from cosmology that I think is important. And you know, Michael talked about this a little bit, but science is independent of questions of purpose. And the best example I can think of is Lemaitre, Georges Lemaitre, a Belgian priest, who was really the first person to realize there was a Big Bang. He realized it theoretically, because he realized that Einstein's general relativity did not allow a static universe. In fact, Einstein didn't believe it. Einstein really ridiculed him for a while, as he tended to do with people who disagreed with him, but eventually the good thing about Einstein is he came around. Lemaitre showed it had to begin, classical general relativity, it really had to begin in a singularity. It had to begin with a Big Bang, a cosmic explosion. Now, the thing that's significant about that is up to that point, science had decided the universe was eternal and static. He showed if Einstein was right, it couldn't be. That was a profound shift, because it meant the universe had a beginning.
So the singularity theorems were, as you described, these were confirmation of this singular origin. And the word singular has to be explained here. It means a place where, essentially where your equations go to infinity and you have to give up. Or in other words, it's where your equations cease to work, and they stop telling you what to do, if you like. And the idea is we take observations about the expansion of the universe and the equations of Einstein and try to extrapolate backwards and use general theorems which show that you really can't evade the singular origin. So that's where the equations blow up, and you can't rely on the equations to tell you what happened at the beginning state.
The universe is expanding, and that's a reality that we humans have to reckon with. We have to understand and explain why the galaxies are moving away from each other, and we must accept the mathematical consequences of that description of how and why galaxies are moving away from each other. There is something called dimensionless physical constants. It's just a number with no unit of measurement. The classic example is the proton-electron mass ratio. Divide the mass of a proton by the mass of an electron, and the result is just a number. Physicist John Wheeler has been researching these quantities. In other words, the Anthropic Principle suggests that the values of dimensionless physical constants were determined to have those values, so eventually someone would exist to discover their values. The universe seems specifically prepared for persons to study the universe. Astronomer Fred Hoyle, who coined the term Big Bang, adjusted his metaphysical position from atheism to agnosticism based on the reality of dimensionless physical constants. Dimensionless physical constants have their values independently of the fundamental forces. In other words, the fundamental forces did not cause the dimensionless physical constants to have the values that they currently have. The values of dimensionless physical constants really do appear to be determined. That determining property suggests decision-making. Decision-making is a property of a will. A will is a property of a mind. And a mind is a property of personhood. Fred Hoyle recognized that there exists evidence that a person who is outside of time, I'll call that eternal, who is also outside of matter, I'll call that immaterial, or better yet, spirit, determine the parameters for life as we know it to eventually come into existence.
Well, let's assume that it is only one universe, and we're all convinced of that. How then possibly could you get this fine-tuning? Some would suggest that indicates some sort of a plan, a teleology, an end seeking, whether it's some sort of a mind or God in one hand, or even a universe that's somehow self-conscious and self-creating. I mean, there are a lot of theories out there.
Yes, and those, of course, are not yet scientific theories, but they are speculations, and I don't find anything wrong with that. Just don't call them science. And no, I do a bit of that myself. I mean, I think that there is probably a mental component of the universe, and you can call it God if you like. But if that is so, then there's no reason why that this mental component shouldn't have had a hand in setting the conditions.